Welcome to my channel and welcome to my website. My name is Daryl and this is Programming in Any Language. The website is www.black-duck.com. It's where you'll find all my videos organized in logical order. Well, in the past I've mentioned that it really is not ideal to have a lot of stuff in the global area of your program. Purists would insist that nothing should go there. But I'm not a purist. Sometimes it makes sense to put things in the global area. That said, it is a good idea to strive to keep the global area clear. And that means we pass variables and arrays to methods. That's what this video is all about. You'll note in this video that the only way to pass an array to a method is by reference. And since it's the only way, you don't need to include the word ref. You just need to name the array. For consistency, it might have been a good idea to include the ref, but the powers that be didn't do that. No problem. As you watch this video, you'll see that everything starts at the load button. Several methods are called. The load button is virtually self-documented because of those calls. Let's take a look. I'll comment more on the backside. Okay, we're going to look at passing an array as an argument to methods, and it's a little, no, it's not different. It's more restrictive. I shouldn't even say that. I should say that in the past we've been able to take variables and send them to methods in a number of different ways, by reference or just the value itself. With arrays, it's different from the standpoint that you can only pass an array by reference. In other words, the method that receives the array, receives a copy of the array or whatever, it's actually getting the keys to be able to change the array from where it originally begins. And we're going to do that today. We're going to take the same video, or the same application we used in the last two videos, and we're going to change it completely and not use any global arrays at all. We're going to use the load button to actually bring in our array, decide how big it's going to be, and actually create it, and then use it and pass it to other arrays, other methods that are going to work the array for us. So you're looking at the screen right now. We're going to still use the same file, 3 steps thing. We're going to be able to open a file, close a file, of course, do something in between, and make it work. At that point, we're going to be passing an array as an argument to a method. And the entire array can be passed as one argument to a method. And there's a little example you're seeing on the screen right now where we've got a string called people. It's got Bill, Jill, Phil, and Will in there, and we're going to show the array by using a message box. So we're going to pass people. The entire array is going to go off to this method down here, the show array method, which is going to grab it, and it's going to use a little loop to actually display each element in the array. So a message box can pop up 4 times on there. A little silly, but that's the way it works. And that's being able to pass the entire array. You can also pass the individual pieces of the array one at a time to a method. And what you're doing here is you have a loop for index equals 0 through people length, index plus, show people, people index. So you're actually calling the method show people, and you're passing the people array, but just that particular element in the array, one piece here. We'll see this too in our example as we go forward. So that's what arrays are going to look like. What you're seeing on the screen right here, we can remove the toolbox. We're not going to create any more tools in this thing. It's basically a copy of the program we used before. In the back, we see no code whatsoever. It's simply just the labels and everything that as we arranged them in the last 2 videos. We're going to show the true length array, the array elements, the LBX array is going to show all the pieces in there when we want to see something visible. We've got a load button here. And we have an exit button here. We're not going to deal with the fill, LBX, save X, or the save all. We won't need them at all. In fact, let's go ahead and get rid of them, just so it doesn't confuse us. We'll just blow these guys away. We're not going to use. We want to show the load piece here. We can. The save is going to be the same no matter what, so we don't have to relearn that. But I want to show you the load as it's going to be a different little piece as we move forward into this thing. Nothing's been coded. Only the form is the same. For starters, we'll define the array and bring it in. And we'll start with the load button itself. And in order to do that, we need to set up the array. But before we do that, we need to know how big it's going to be. And one way is to count the number of records in the file. So how do we do that exactly? Well, we get in here, we go in, and we create our load button. And that creates our button load piece right here. So we've got that in place. In our button load, we're going to go ahead and we're going to create a couple of variables. So we'll set up a an int here. Int number of records. We'll make it equal to 0 right now. And this will be the number of records in the file. In other words, we're going to find out how many records are in the file before we actually create the array. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to create int array size. So we're going to establish a variable that's going to give us the array size here. We're going to hang on to this number. And so this will be the size of the array. We don't know how big it's going to be right now because we don't have we haven't read the file yet. Then we're going to actually go ahead and get the number of records. So we're going to get number of records. And we're going to pass by reference this variable int number of records. So what we've done is we've created a variable or created a method name that we're going to get number of records, and we're passing it the int number of records, which is sitting up here, which has 0 in it. What we need now is we need to actually create that method. So we'll go down here and we'll do a private void get number of records, and we'll grab by reference int record count. We could use the same variable if we wanted to in number of records, but just to make a difference so you can see that it's actually using its own variable here in the method. It's private, but it's going to pass it back to int number of records. So we're going to use that. We'll put braces in here, and then we'll establish our method. That gets it in good shape here. We have an error right here. There's an E missing. And we got that in place now. Spelling is a big deal. So as long as you have these red lines there, it's kind of a help because it tells you what's wrong, and you can go ahead and fix it. So we've got our method right here now, get the number of records. Now all we need to do is actually create this thing. So how do we do that? Well, it's actually kind of easy. We use the same loop we used before to read the records into the array, except all we're going to do right now is count them. So we're going to read this file. So we're going to set up first of all, we need to go up on top here, and we need to put in our system IO. Added for stream reader and stream writer, so we can make use of these things down here. Then we'll go into our method here, and we'll say string str dummy. We want to create a dummy variable that's going to read the records, and we're not going to do anything with it. We need to read it in so we can count them. So this will be a dummy variable for the read. Then we're going to drop down here and say try. And we're going to go ahead and put our braces in here. And right after that, we're going to do a catch. We're going to say catch exception EX, because we want to be able to, we don't know what kind of error is going to happen, so we want the system to be able to give us our error. Go down here and we'll create that thing. We can actually then say that we want message box dot show, and we're going to put in ex dot message, and that will give us our message if something goes wrong. Otherwise, we're going to be up in here, and we're going to actually do our read in this particular area. So this is the main area we're going to actually be focusing on. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to say int record count is equal to 0. We're going to set that up. That's our counter variable. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to say stream reader input file. This will activate stream reader. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to say input file is equal to file dot open text, and we're going to use the name myguys .txt. Same file we used before. It's got about 36 items in it, I believe, all cartoon characters from Warner Brothers. So we're going to grab that particular thing and we're going to lay that in here, and that's going to open our file. Then we're going to go while not input file and a stream, and we'll set up our braces for our loop. And we're going to say str dummy is equal to input file read line. Read the file and int record count plus plus. That'll increment it. We need to go down here then and close the file. And that's it. That's all we need to do. Let's do a save on this thing. And let's do a run. Do a load. Can't find a file used for how to program in any language, blah, 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 blah. Can't find my guy's text. Interesting. Okay, let's go find out why we can't do that. We can't do it because it's not there yet. So we have that in place. So let's go out to our folder and bring this forward right now so we can see it. Go into our bin, into our debug folder, and there's nothing there. There's no file there. So we need to actually find it. So we need to create another folder here and pick that thing up. And I know we have this file someplace else, so we're going to grab a copy of it. I believe we've got it in some folder down here. I'll just jump in and grab it. Go into this particular folder that we used last time. There's our guy. We'll just do a Control-C in here, and we'll pop it into our other folder. There it is. It's in place now. So we can happily go up to our folder, close this guy off, and save him in a different spot, and go back here and load it. We can now do a file save again. Actually, we can just do a run. The save's going to be the same, but I'll go ahead and run. And we do a load. Okay. It didn't seem to do anything, but it didn't fail us either. Right now, we don't have an exit button. We don't have anything else. We just know we're doing this process. So one of the best ways to actually see what's actually happening here is to go in and put a breakpoint in. Put a breakpoint in up here, and put a breakpoint in the closed file piece here. Then do a run. And we'll hit load, and it will stop right here. Hit record numbers. Well, let's see what that is. Let's go ahead and add this to our watch. Let's add the array size to our watch. Let's go down and look at the STR dummy to see if it's reading anything. And I don't think we need to see much else. If we do, we'll just add it to there. I'll use the F11 now key now to jump through, and you can see that int number of records is sitting at 0. It's jumping down to getting the record. It's going to pass it. It's going to pass number of records to 0 out to this method right here. So record count becomes a 0. It sets up string dummy, sets our record count to 0, goes to my guys, and starts to read the first guy. And it reads one, and we've got Daffy coming in. It then goes through and reads bugs. What we don't see is we don't see record count being increased. So I'm going to go ahead and do the record count and add the watch to that. And we can see that's already at number 3. So as we start to step through this thing some more, Petunia comes in as 4 and so on down the line. Well, since we're going to read a bunch of these guys, and I really don't care how many we're actually going to read, I'm going to hit F5 and stop it at the close so we can see how many we actually have here. So I hit F5. The program continues through the entire loops, gets to the input. We now can look at nasty canasta, look at the last one read, and it's a record count of 36. So we read 36 records. What's going to happen to this guy? Well, when we finish up and hit F11 and come out of this routine, it goes back to where it came from and puts 36 in the number of records. So now the number of records is now sitting at 36. So we have the size we're going to need to actually create the array. But we're going to do something a little different as we do this. We can just close off now when we're done. So we'll close this off and we can go back. We're going to take a look at what we've actually done in our button load here. We can get rid of our breakpoints here. We don't need this anymore. And we've got our array size now. We actually want to create something. We got the get number of records is sitting down here. So actually I want to put a little, this is a call. We now can see that int array size is equal to int number of records. But we want to increase the one because I'd like to put that end of file in. We don't have to do this, but I'm going to do it just so we can put that end of file indicator we did in the end. So we're reading all of the elements of the array, and we'll put end of file as the last element in the array. So we actually want the array to be 1 bigger than it actually is. So we'll say +1. So array size is going to be bigger than the int number of records that were read here. So want to allow for end of file statement in our array. Bring this back. And, oh, we don't have a semicolon at the end of this thing. Let's do that. There, it's happy now. Now we can actually set up the array. So we're going to say str ing string array. We're going to call it my guys not to be confused with the name of the file, but just my guys. It's going to be equal to a new string of int array size. So that's going to create that array that's going to be one bigger than the number of records we actually read. Setup array. And now we're going to display that. LBL array size dot text is equal to int array size to string. Display the size of the array. And we'll do a file save on this thing. And let's do a run on it real quickly. We'll just do a load, and bang, we get 37. The true length of the array size is that. How many elements we actually have in here? Well, we haven't read any in yet. All we did was count the records because we didn't have an array. So we're actually going to be reading this file twice. Once to get how big it is so we can establish the array, and the second time to bring in the data. This doesn't work. Let's pull that out of here. In fact, let's make that happen real quickly. That's going to be kind of annoying, I think, if we don't set this up. So let's go ahead and do a // close file. And this dot close. There, we're all set. Close the file. End program. Whatever. File. Save all. Go back to our form. Looks like cool. Okay, great. And let's go back to our code. So now that we know the number of records, we can set the array. We just did. We added an extra element. We don't have to, though, to have that identify message as the last element. And we then displayed it in a label. So we did all that piece. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and initialize the array. We don't have to do this either, but because our array is only going to be the number of records we're reading in, so we don't have to actually initialize the elements in there. But if we ever wanted to have an array that was 100 and we're only reading 36 records in, it's nice to actually initialize the array so all of them are constant. So we're actually going to go ahead and do that. So back in our form load, way back here again, remember the form load's going to be doing all of our stuff. We can virtually follow the pieces here by looking at the methods we're using here. So by creating another method right under here, we're going to say initialize the array. And we're going to send it my guys. So we're passing it by reference now. We don't need to give it any sizes because it's going to have the entire array there. So we'll just grab this and go out here and say fill the array with quote quote. What do we do now? Well, we build that method. So arrays are passed by reference automatically. We can set up the routine to initialize the array. We don't have to here because we're going to fill all the elements again, as I told you. But if we were going to ever have a bigger array than that, we might like to have all the elements with nulls in them or double quotes, and just have our elements that we're reading in sit on the top. So we're going to pass this method to another method. So that means we have to actually build a method. So we'll go down here, and we'll actually say private void init the array. We're going to get something in here. We're going to create a string. We can build it like this. We're going to change it. My guys is perfectly fine to put in here if you wanted to. I like to put something different here because just to point out the fact that these are private variables in here. That once they're in here, the private variables can only be seen by this method right here. So by taking this guy and grabbing it and creating something different like string away, str string array. We can use it for anything then and put it in place. So we've got that now. We've got this method here, and this clears up this. We don't have any errors here, so we just need to do this. How do we do this? Well, we simply say for I equals 0, I is less than the string array length, because it knows the length of the array, and we're going to increase the I by 1 for every element that's in there. And we're going to simply say that str string array I is equal to quote quote. And that's going to fill the element with null. In debug mode it is already null, but in actual mode it's not necessarily nulled. We're then going to go ahead and we're going to say str string array length -1 is equal to end of file. Fill last element with UF. That's all we need to do there. Do a file save. And what the heck, let's go ahead and let's put a breakpoint in this point right here. Is this a good place to put it? Well, let's see. Are we going to put anything else in here? Now that's about what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and do this, and we'll go ahead and run it. And we'll go through this process by doing a load. It goes out there. I'm going to bring my watch over here so we can see it, so you can see the pieces that are there. And we're going to initialize the array at this point in time. I'm going to put another breakpoint over here because as we go through this process and hit F11, it's going to jump down here and it's going to increment I. Let's see what I is. Go ahead and add this to our watch so it's in here as well. There's I. And we're going to jump through and it's going to increase this thing over and over again to 2, 3, 4. And it's going to keep putting nulls in the array. And we can go ahead and look at this string array, which is right here, and jump down and see that we've already put in double quotes in the first 5 elements, 0 through 4. And there's nulls already in there from the debug procedure are sitting in there into the rest of the array. And we can look at the rest of the array and see that it's all there. Let's go ahead and finish this thing up by hitting F5. That brings us down to here. Our entire array is there. And I'm going to hit this thing once more to F11. That actually executed this. Now, if we look at our string array now and bring it down here, all of the elements have been sitting here, except the very, very last element has end of file sitting in. Oops, I lost it. There, 36 or 0 through 36 is actually item 37, but it's got end of file in it. So we've actually established that. So that's working for us. So let's go ahead and do an F5 to finish this thing off. Comes up with the screen. We'll go ahead and exit out of this. And we'll get rid of our debug. So what's next? We go back to our button load. What we'd like to do next then is read the file. Let's go get that stuff. Read the file into array. What are we going to read? Well, we're going to put it in my guys. Read file into array. And how do we do that? We create another variable or another method. So private void read the file into array, and it'll be a string array str. We can do the same thing we did last time. String array. Set up our braces on there. That gets rid of our error, and we're ready to go. How do we do this? Oh, we do this the same way we did the read, except we just do something slightly different in there. Let's go ahead and build it from scratch and just put it in there as we look at it. So we'll look at the. We're going to put a try in first. We don't need a dummy variable, so we'll just say try, and we'll put it in our braces. And we'll go down here and say catch, exception EX, and put this in there. And then we'll put our message box, let's show, and we're going to put in ex message. And that puts that in place. So that's our escape if something goes wrong when we read the file into the array. Now we're actually going to read the array itself and put it into the file. So we'll say that int x is equal to 0, and this will be our counter variable. Same thing we did before when we were actually counting the records. Create a stream reader, and it will be called input file. Same thing we call the last one. This will activate the stream reader. Then we're going to say input file is equal to file open text my guys. And this is one of the reasons we closed the file when we did the count, because we're doing an open here, and if the file was not closed, you would have an error, and our try catch would be catching that right away. So what's this thing going to do? This is going to open the file. We're then going to set up our while loop, and we're going to do a while x is less than str string array length. That's important to have here. We're going to actually go ahead and do our braces right here, but I want to actually increase this. We're also going to be looking at something else. not only are we looking that we did not exceed the length of the array, which we won't because we are controlling how big this array is going to be by reading it in the first place, but we still will put this in as a good practice piece. But we also want to say and, not input file, that end of stream. So if our file ends, we also want to put this in. This is the same thing we did in all the other loops as we did this. So we certainly want to have this piece in here, and our braces are then there. So what we can now say is that our str string array dot x is equal to reading a line. So this will read a line of data. We'll increase x, increment the counter, and that's all we need to do. Then we go down here and close the file when we're done. And right away we can go ahead and say LBL actual events, actual elements dot text is equal to string array length to string. No, we don't do that. We want to be able to say is equal to x string. Well, we could do this to the length. Well, let's do x, because we want to use that count in here where we're actually reading x. So x dot toString, and this will display the count. See, remember we have that end of file in there. We're not going to be covering that up. We're just going to grab the data and put that in there. So the x is going to show us the actual number of elements that are in there. Let's go ahead and run this real quick without any breakpoints, just to see if it works. And we'll go ahead and start. And up it comes. Do a load. Bang. 37 is our array size was. The actual number of elements read in was 36. So they're sitting inside the array right now. It'd be nice to actually display these things so we can see what they actually are and look at that whole element there. And we'll do that next. Do we want to see this in breakpoint? Probably not necessary. We've done that before. We could do a quickie on here and go ahead and set up a breakpoint, and then maybe do our actual elements here and run it this way. So we'll do a start. We'll let the watch come up. It gets in there, sets everything up. It does start at the int. Why is it sitting? I didn't need the int y equals 0. We don't need that there. That must be a mistake on my part. But we go ahead and, because we're not going to use it, we'll hit F11. And we read our file. My guy's coming in. And as we put this thing in, our string array is sitting in there. We're incrementing x. I will get rid of that y stuff. It's another good reason to test, though, because you end up, oh my God, some weird stuff got in here. We're increasing this. You're not seeing much at all going on here. So we actually have to look at this x and add it to our breakpoint, because these are private to this particular method here. And we also want to look at the, that's all I really need to look at. We can go ahead and look at the string array and see where that is. And you can see Daffy and bugs are already in there. And if we look a little further down the line, just step down here, and the file is sitting there. So what we're going to do is we're going to be adding all these people in here and still letting end of file sit in that whole spot as we go along. So as we step along here, it goes ahead and increments x and brings all that stuff in. Let's go ahead and hit F5 for continue and get it down to the last element there. It's now there. We're bringing in that, this will bring in our display, so x is going to show us that the 36 is going to actually be in there. That's what's going to display on our form as we go forward. So F5 again, and it comes up there, and there's our 36. We can get out, and we can close this stuff off. The only thing left is to actually fill list box. So let's go ahead and fill list box. Instead of using a button to do that, we'll just do it from here and let this let the load button do everything that needs to be done here. My guys again will go in there. This will be fill list box with contents of array. How do we do that? Well, we create a method that actually does that. And so to do that, we'll jump down here and we'll say private fill list box. Oh, void. Forgot the void. And we'll bring in string, and we'll call the string array again. Well, we can go ahead and put our braces in real quickly, just so we can build that thing, get rid of the error. But I don't want this, my guys in. We'll just do a string again, str string array, showing that name there. What do we do inside here? Well, this is kind of simple. I simply say for I equals 0, and I is less than string str string array dot length, and we're going to increment I. And this will then cause us to create another set of braces here, which will actually do this for us. And all we do here is lbx dot items dot add string array I, and that does it for us. Will this work? File save and start. Here comes our program. Do the load. 36, 37. All our stuff's in here. Cruise on down. There's then the file sitting at the bottom there for the 37th record is coming in. So we read 36 names. And we added that in the file to the end of it, so we have this in place, and it's all there. I did mention that we can pass the array as arguments to methods, and we can pass the individual elements on here. I'm going to make a slight change to this this piece we just did, where we're popping in, or we're sending it to a method to create fill the list box. Instead, we're going to actually pass each element to that method, and we'll do it from there. So let's just give that a shot here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to my load here, and I'm going to actually comment this out. And instead, I'm going to create another call. I'm going to call this one, first of all, I'm going to say for I equals 0, I is less than int array size, I plus plus, and set up my loop. And then I'm going to say add to list box. What am I going to add to list box? I'm going to add my guys I. So just one element in there. And I'm going to do this repeatedly over and over again. And that's all I'm going to do. That's what's going to happen. So I'm going to pass an element from the array to another method called add to list box and make that happen. So how do we make this happen? We go down here and create a brand new method. Void add to list box. This time we're going to be receiving a string, which we'll call str dummy. And we'll set up our braces and create that loop. That gets rid of our error in the add to list box here. And all we need to do here is basically say lbx array dot items dot add str dummy. Add an element to the list box and go from there. So let's go ahead and do a file save on this thing and start it. Do a load. Same thing happens. We get identical results and the file is showing there, except this time we did something a little different. We went ahead and we actually went through. In fact, let's go through here. Let's go do this. Let's go ahead and let's do it on the 4 and do a run here so we can kind of see this happen. Do our load, and we're sitting right here at the I, and we'll hit F11 here and jump to add to list box. So you can see it's going to go jump down, and it's going to grab this, and it's going to grab dummy, and we can actually look at dummy and add it to our watch. It's now got Daffy in it. No, we got it again. It's like it already was up there, so not a problem. So we can just go through this process and see a change. Each time it goes back, it's going up to add, jumps down, goes down to here. It keeps going down, it keeps on grabbing different guys, increments I in here, and it keeps calling this method over and over again 36 times until it gets all those people there. So we can actually do a F5 now and go through it, and everybody's there. We've got our in a file, and it all works. So it's kind of a handy little move to actually do that. So breakpoints are going to help you be able to understand where you are in your program. But that's what it is. It isn't that difficult to pass an array to a method. You just have to remember that you're always passing it with the ability that any method can change the contents of the array when it actually does that. So the entire array can be passed as one argument to the method by just passing it straight out, and off it goes. It gets it, and it's done. So kind of handy. Kind of handy. Read the file twice. Bet you didn't see that coming. Well, computers are fast. Why not count our records and then set up our array? It takes the guesswork out of how big it should be. Of course, if you were creating an array that could be added to, you wouldn't do this. you would need to figure somehow how big your array really needs to be. That's all part of the analysis when you're doing the problem solving piece. And there are tools we can use as well. We'll see those in future videos. Well, there's a lot more to arrays than what we've covered so far. Play with this example a bit to make it part of your toolbox. I'll return later with more. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. And don't forget to use the website for easy access to all my videos. If you get a chance, please subscribe. That way, you'll be notified when something new is available. We'll see you in the next video. Take care.